So microservices deployment strategy is all about, like, how we can actually deploy the microservices. As we are aware, like in a traditional monolithic kind of environment, right? So we take a complete executable of the application, and we deploy that, create multiple instances of that and deploy that maybe in a single machine or multiple VMs, right? So depending on our deployment strategy, we replicate those instances, right? So that is from a monolithic point of view. So since microservices, right, so each service is independent, so we also need a good strategy for the deployment, so that we can track each services and the instance of each services running in different places. So basically, we have three deployment strategies. We'll go through this quickly. These three strategies. So first one is, when we have multiple service instances per host. So suppose we have multiple host machines available, and we can actually deploy each service no in a separate host. Basically, suppose here in this example, I have host one, that can be a physical machine or that can be a virtual machine. So I can deploy my service 1, service 2, or service 3 instances, like all the services instances in a single machine, the first instance basically, and maybe all the services instances available in a second machine. So in this way we can still cater our needs, because whenever any service is down, service instance is down, still we'll still have a copy in next machine. But yeah, so we have to not we have to also see the need of each services, right? So another drawback is, like, we are giving a single machine to all the services, right? So but the need of each service may be different, right? So one service may need only a relational database. For example, the service 2 may need some document DB, like MongoDB kind of stuff. Maybe service 3 may need more sophisticated environment like Kafka and all, right? So in this case, we will not be able to divide each service based on the need. Basically, each service will be having one copy in each machine. Okay, so that is the drawback of this kind of strategy. So next one is no we can deploy each service separately in one VM, basically. So for example, the VM1, we can have service 1, VM2 we have service, VM2 also, no we can keep one more service, and then VM3 also once same service we can replicate. So we can no keep on adding new virtual machines. For example, you have taken no some service in cloud, like AWS, so you can create your EC3 instances, and you can deploy directly your services in each virtual machine, basically. So the entire virtual machine will be for that particular service. So each if the first virtual machine is down, still we'll have down that up and running in the second virtual machine. That is also one of the deployment strategy for microservices. But the most popular one actually is this one, like service instance per container, which we generally follow nowadays. So what we'll do, like, each VM will create containers. Maybe we can create multiple containers also, and where each service will be having their own space, basically, single space inside a container. So you can see, yeah, suppose I want to deploy my services in Docker. So I can create my containers here in a virtual machine, and I can very well link those containers or control those containers from maybe Kubernetes or any other orchestration tools. I can manage everything from one place. So this is the most popular and most happening deployment strategy, as I'm aware mostly people are actually following this kind of containerization deployment strategy for microservices, for the obvious benefit, because containers are lightweight basically, and it is easy to track, right? So if you have something like Kubernetes and all, so it will help you to track all the containers. How if some container is actually going down, you can spin up another container very quickly, right? So this is one of a good way of managing the diverse nature of microservices, because each microservices have their own requirement or own need, right? So in terms of the technology, in terms of the databases, right? So we want to keep them independent, then we can keep them in separate containers, right? So these are the three deployment strategies for microservices generally we come across. So maybe in your project also you can see any one of this. It's not necessarily like one VM you keep only one container and one instance. So one VMA you can run multiple containers also. Okay. So yeah, this is from a service deployment standpoint. So these are the three things. You may need to write your Docker file, and if you want to use Kubernetes, then probably the Kubernetes configuration files and all you have to create.